Hey guys, how's it going? Today, I'm going to teach you how to transform your Vim text editor from a boring traditional text editor like this into a full-blown IDE that looks like this, complete with syntax highlighting as well as helpful completion tips. So follow along and I'll show you how to do this. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, Vim is an in-terminal text editor, and it has these really neat key bindings and home row navigation keys that can help improve your workflow. So it makes it a lot easier to do different tasks. Once you get the hang of it and memorize the key bindings, you can do things like copy and paste and find different things to edit. If you aren't familiar with Vim, the first place that I would go is the Vim Tutor. If you have Vim installed, you can just type Vim Tutor into your terminal. And this is a great place to start. It'll basically walk you through the different commands and everything. However, with this video, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you already are slightly familiar with some of the things that Vim can do, such as being able to enter insert mode and being able to save your files and exit Vim successfully. If you aren't familiar with how to do those things, go ahead and take a look at that Vim Tutor. So Vim on its own is pretty boring. As you can see, once we go in here, there's not a lot that pops up. Because I'm using Kali Linux and they use something called Z Shell, it is going to give me some of that text highlighting. If you're using a different system, you probably won't see this. So to really turn Vim into a full functioning IDE, you're going to need to do something. You're going to need to edit your Vimrc file. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and prep our system a little bit, because there's a couple things that we need to install to make sure that everything's going to run correctly. So the first thing we're going to do is install some of the things that we need to help us out with our Vimrc file. Now, I'm running this in a virtual machine in a brand new version of Kali Linux. Kali does have Z Shell running instead of a normal bash terminal, but for our purposes, that shouldn't matter. Now, the steps I'm going to show you should work on any Debian-based Linux. So the first thing we're going to do is run this, and this is going to get us a couple added things that we're going to need in our Vim for our Vimrc. All these commands will be posted below. Next, you're going to install something called cmake. And again, that's just going to help with some of the plugins in our Vimrc file. Next, we're going to install the plugin manager for our Vimrc file. And I'll probably post a link to this actual plugin manager on below. Finally, we're going to install something called Pathogen, which is just going to help some of the plugins that we're going to be working with. Okay, now we can go ahead and actually edit our Vimrc file. So to do that, you're going to type in vim and then the ~.vimrc. As you can see, in a brand new version, the Vimrc file is going to be empty. So go ahead and click I and enter insert mode. And then you're going to follow the link, and I've posted my Vimrc in a GitHub gist. So all you're going to do is copy and paste this whole thing, making sure that you get all of it, into your Vimrc file. Go ahead and copy, paste, that should be good. And then you're going to save the file with a colon, write, and quit. Now we can do source our Vimrc, and that should run all the things that we need it to do. If it asks you to install anything else while it's actually doing the sourcing, go ahead and click yes, because those are just going to be things that are going to help us. So as you can see, it tried to install some of these plugs, but because we're using a plugin manager, we're going to actually install them from the vimrc file. It's going to give us a couple issues, but we're going to go ahead and fix it. So now that we're in the vimrc file, we're going to use our plugin manager to install all of our plugins. And I'll show you the plugins in a second, but we're going to run that and it'll actually go through and install all those things. See, you can see it's doing its thing here. And these plugins are going to help us. They're going to give us some of those auto completion things, and they're going to help us actually turn this into an IDE, not just a simple text editor. So you're actually going to be able to be very productive with your Vim stuff after using this. Now, if you get some errors while this is happening, that's okay, because we're going to fix those in a second. All right, let's go ahead and blow up this so we can actually see kind of what's going on here. So it should say finishing and done. If you write Q, you can do that. And if you want to run the plug install command, and it's just an up arrow key to get that plug install command, and it'll show you that everything's already installed, so everything's good to go there. So let's go ahead and scroll down and actually look at some of our plugins. Some of the different stuff. So this one is a debugger. Let's see some of the actual useful things. Python mode is great. You can do py linting. Complete me is also great, because that's going to give you some of those completions that you would see in some of the more modern IDEs. Some of this other stuff in here, it's just helpful. You can go to all of these GitHub pages. It's usually, this is the username, and then this is the actual plugin that they have. So if you go to that GitHub page, you can kind of read through the docs and see what all of these different things actually does. All right, there's a couple more things before we're done, and then I'll explain the rest of my vimrc file. So go ahead and exit out of your vimrc. Now, we're going to want to actually change our directory into our Vim folder. And again, put the dot in front of it. So let's go ahead and list what we have. So we can see we actually have a folder in here that's called plug. So if we change directories again into that plugged folder and list out what's actually in there, one of the things we're going to need to do is finish installing the uCompleteMe. So you're going to want to cd into the uCompleteMe folder and list. And you can see there's an install Python document. So we're going to type python3 and then install py to actually install our uCompleteMe. This is the only plugin that you have to do a little extra step to actually get it working. But once this is done, we'll do a couple more things and then you'll be all set. You can see uCompleteMe is totally installed. So we're going to change our directory back into our Vim folder, and you can get that by typing your pwd, and you can list there. We're going to make another directory right now, and we're going to call it templates. And this will play into some of the things that I have set up in the actual vimrc file. So now that we're in the templates folder, you can see that it's empty. And now you're going to go ahead and navigate over to the other gist page that I have below. So this is going to have all of the templates that you're going to need to add to your templates folder. So again, you're going to do Vim. The first one we're going to do is called skeleton C, and this is going to help you if you're doing any sort of C programming. Just ignore all the errors for now, because it's actually looking for these files. All right, the next one you're going to do is the skeleton CPP. Again, just go ahead and copy and paste. A little bit of extra templates for when you actually create some files, and it makes it a little bit easier when you're doing some development stuff. And then the last one, of course, we're going to do is the skeleton Python. And if the formatting's a little messed up, that's okay, because we're going to save it real quick. Okay, now if you CD back into just a normal folder, do a different folder, hello.py. So now you have your template, now you have your text highlighting, and you should have some of the you complete me stuff going on in here. And the other function that I have built into this that I think you guys are going to like, so instead of exiting out, saving your program, and then actually running Python and then the program name to run it, the way I have the Vimrc file set up is you can just hit Control-C and it'll run the file, and see it ran the file right there. And so let me show you how we actually did that. If you go back into your Vimrc file, if you're getting this error, I can show you how to fix that. But for now, I'm probably just going to delete the offending message that's in there. So as you can see, these are our auto commands. So whenever you start a file that ends in cpp, .py, .c, or .java, it's going to go into your Vim templates and use that skeleton that we created. So that's pretty cool. You already get a skeleton when you start up those files. I think this is the offending file. So if you just hit, and it's just a hashtag to comment things out in your Vimrc file. And then down here, the way that we're doing the execution, again, it's an auto commands and it's by file type. So if it's a CPP, C, Python, there's different commands. So what we're doing, once you hit Control-C, I do Control-C because it's for compile. It writes the program, and then it runs it through the compiler, and then it makes sure that the output is going to be the same file name as the input minus the little C or the CPP at the end. It's a little bit different down here, as you can see for Python. It just runs it by running Python 3 and then actually running the program. So, but for the C and the CPP programs and the Java programs, it's going to run it through the compiler first and make sure that those programs actually compile. So that's pretty neat, and I like that. It's kind of an advantage over having to go back into the command line and compile your program. So it's probably going to give us an issue because I tried to exit it out of that. Instead of doing that, we could probably just delete that line. Now we're not getting any error message when we actually try to Vim. So let's go ahead and write a C program real quick to show you guys how that compiler works. So don't forget the semicolon. Now again, once you exit out of insert mode, all you have to do is hit Control-C, and it's going to run it through the compiler and print it out. Once we go back in, we can save it real quick. And then if we list it, we can see that it has the executable file of hello as well as your hello.c program. The same thing's going to work for C and C++. If you want to use Java, you might need to add or install some of the Java tools, but it's pretty easy to find out how to do that. Let's see if this actually works. Okay, failed to compile. So for those of you who are trying to develop in Java, Vim is not the best, but it's definitely possible. So that's all I have for this quick little tutorial on how to use my Vimrc. Luckily, everything loaded. If you find that there's an error message, you don't need all of these different plugins in the Vimrc. If for whatever reason you're on a system that won't let you do sudo apt install some of those tools, just read the error messages and kind of try to go through them. If something isn't working, if one of these plugins isn't working, you can always just delete that line and get your program back up and running. So appreciate you guys watching. Let me know in the comments if you're having any issues and I'll try to help out. All right, thanks.